So good morning, welcome to Small Farm Living. Today we are going to do our first week tour of what's growing in the garden. So I'm just going to try to stand back here and give you an overview of the garden so you can kind of see the general outline of it as we are walking through and checking out what is growing. So over here you can see in full glorious bloom is a dwarf pear tree. And at the time that I planted this, I really didn't have anywhere set up outside the garden space to keep the deer from munching it. So this is where we ended up with it. It's not too bad. I'm going to do an espalier, which if you don't know what that is, it's a series of posts and where you train the tree to grow kind of in a flat wall-like shape. So I might be a little late, but we're going to see if we can get that accomplished. And the sun is just peeking up over the hill, so try not to face you this way too much. This is a dwarf little Pixie Crunch apple tree, and it is really little, and it puts on small apples, but boy are they tasty. Here is garlic, and I honestly don't remember what variety I planted. I had purchased one particular variety, and then a gal that works with one of my older daughters had extra, and she brought those home and I planted them too. So we will pan over here so we kind of stay in the same category. And this whole bed right here is also garlic. And not too long ago, I did a brief tour on a different video, and the tips of them were kind of yellow because I hadn't gotten them fertilized yet for spring, but we got those nice and fertilized, and they are looking beautiful and green. And those will be ready to come out of the ground in usually the end of June is when I pull those out. Sometimes I go into July, but end of June is normal. This bed doesn't have anything in it yet. I do have a whole bunch of plants in my greenhouse, in my germination room still, that are more tender, so they won't come out for a little bit. These right here, these are sugar snap peas. They're the kind that you just pull them off and eat the pod and all, and they are super delicious. This little raised bed here doesn't have anything in it yet. And here, kind of on both sides of the aisle, so I have this old cattle panel, and it's just kind of janky, but it was already bent, so we bent it into this little bit of an arch here. And on each side I have regular English peas, which their variety is called Wando, W-A-N-D-O. And I kept thinking, what in the heck is chomping on the leaves of my little peas? And let me show you what I mean. So do you see how on here, like some of the leaves have little chomps? At first I thought it was like a slug, and I have Sluggo down, and I haven't seen any slime trails. And I came out here and discovered it's the little white-crowned sparrow, I believe they're called, birds. I've watched them just like take bites out of my plant. So I don't know, I might have to do some bird netting or something to protect them. Here is a raised bed that has raspberries in it. We definitely need to relocate these. They have been here for a long time, getting crowded, and they're trying to, well, they're not trying, they are coming up out of the ground, as you can see, outside of the raised bed, and one is even coming up in my blueberry bed. So I got to get that one pulled out today. But this is an everbearing raspberry called Golden Raspberry, and I actually did a video on pruning these. If you'd like to take a look at that, I will try to remember to link that down below for you. And here we have two blueberries. Now technically blueberries like cooler roots and they don't like to be in raised beds, but this raised bed doesn't have a bottom to it, so it goes down to the regular soil. So they've been fairly happy here. At some point I really would like to make an established area just for berries, so I can kind of get a netting over all of them so the birds don't attack them, because it's kind of hard to cover them in this area. And in here I like to do my potatoes because the soil is nice and loose, and I amend it every year with compost and worm castings and all kinds of good stuff, and it just makes for a real nice environment for the potatoes to grow, and it's pretty easy to dig them out. So in here I have kind of a yellow potato. It's a Kennebec, and it's really good for canning, and I believe that's also what I have down here in this pot. I had so many. All of these are just ones that I saved from last year, because when I pulled them up out of the garden, the ones that were closest to the surface and had a little bit of green on them, I just stick them in a bag in a really cool dark place, usually down in our basement, And by the time they're ready to plant in spring, excuse me, they're all nice and sprouted. So I believe all back in the back side of this raised bed are the Kennebecs. And then as we transition over to here, I have some Pontiac Reds. And then over here, we get into purple potatoes. And if you've never grown purple potatoes, they are so fun. It's kind of a trip with little kids, because when my oldest two girls were small, I've grown these for a long time. I used to make them purple French fries, and they just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I have canned a few of the purple ones. They turn out just fine, but I don't grow tons of them, mostly because, again, it's just kind of fun. We make roasted purple potatoes in the oven, and now that I have a grandchild, it's about time to start making purple potato French fries for her. Over here, again, this pot right here has potatoes in it as well. This is a gooseberry, and they're kind of one of those plants that they say don't really like to be transplanted because they have a long taproot. And I had them just in this pot because, again, I would really like an established place for my berries. But I had 3 of them in there, and I was kind of nervous because I ended up transplanting them early this spring and pulled them out. But I think I got them while they were still young enough, because you can kind of see this guy's just a little tiny one. And this one over here, he's a little bit bigger, but they've just taken off and are thriving. I mean, they've really bushed out and kind of come into their own. And over here, it's really probably going to be hard to see because they're just getting started. But if you can see that right there, and the sun's coming up, so it's kind of hard too. But, and over here, these are my carrots. And I did a video on how to get the perfect spacing for carrots. If you'd like to take a look at that, I believe I have a playlist starting from seed, so there's a whole bunch of videos in there if you'd like to check that out. But all 4 of these beds are the carrots. These 2 pots right here, and yes, my garden is still a hot mess because I'm trying to get it fixed, but these are empty. And I say empty, but last year I grew potatoes in this one, and I must have missed even the tiniest little potato. If you forget it, it'll grow. And so I'm not sure what that one is, but we'll probably just leave it because heck, why not? It's food, right? And then over here, this is my herb bed. Needs a major overhaul because the wood that we used on it, I think it's been in here for 17 years, and it's kind of, it doesn't owe me any favors anymore. So we have oregano, which is taking over the bed. Very typical. It's a spreader. Back here, this is my thyme. I did have a lemon thyme. It just isn't as hardy, and it didn't look like it made it. So I might find another one of those. It's just kind of a fun little herb. And I have chives here, and another chive plant up here. This right here is called tricolor sage, and try to get closer if you can kind of see. Right now, because it's so early in the season, it doesn't have its 3rd color, which is kind of a blushy white color. And when it turns that way and you have all 3 colors on here, it is really pretty stunning. And I don't use a lot of this in cooking. I mean, I do in some of my sauces. I'll add a little bit in, but the plant is just so pretty, and I've actually used it in flower bouquets, little small flower bouquets, and it looks really pretty. And back there, kind of the frilly looking leaf, you can see an oregano plant is trying to come up way back here, but that is a chamomile, and I have several volunteers coming up for that. So just know, if you ever plant chamomile, it's pretty good at seeding itself. So let's get to the center aisle. Okay, so going down the center, and I'll just kind of give you a peek here. Hopefully the sun doesn't blind you. So this whole center aisle actually is only as deep as the double stack of boards you can see. So it's about 1 foot deep. And the reason why is I put weed mat underneath it because we have voles, gophers, and moles. And let me tell you what, they come up. The beds in here that I don't have this under, they come up in it, and they'll just disturb your plants and chew the roots, and it's lovely. But half of this bed, you can kind of see they're just getting going here. I have onions. These are just a sweet Spanish yellow onion, and Mostly I use them in salsa. I'm not a huge onion girl. I actually had a pretty bad allergy to them when I was younger, and I've pretty much outgrown it. But I don't know. I like the flavor. I like onion powder and all that stuff. Fresh onion I will eat if it's canned into salsa or sauces and things like that. But that's why I don't really have a whole lot of onions there. This one is pretty much vacant, again, with only the English peas over there on the other side. And this bed and the next one that we're going to look at, when I was doing cut flower bouquets before my daughter, she got cancer, an aggressive breast cancer, and I had to take almost 2 years off from doing my cut flower bouquets. And so these have just kind of gotten worse for wear, and I'm trying to get them back into shape now because my daughter has one more surgery to go, and then we're hopefully done. Praise the Lord. So yeah, these are called anemone. These ones are white with a black center, and they do rust when the rain hits them. Eventually, if I can get back up into full scale, I'm going to do a smaller hoop house just to keep the rain off of them. It just keeps them from rusting. It won't be closed on the ends. It'll just be open, but just having that protection. But the purple and the lavender is just so beautiful. Some of them have veins and striping. Let's see if I can get down there. Isn't that pretty? And a lot of people can't overwinter these in their area, or they don't find that they do very well. And I kind of have the opposite problem. They do great. So in here are just 2 more cabbage plants. These are ones that I put in the ground specifically for the chickens. I had this whole bed full at one point, but I would just rip off several leaves every few days and throw them into the chicken run for them so they have fresh greens. I have a volunteer parsley in there. And as you can see over here, I had curly leaf parsley and flat leaf parsley in this bed last year, and no shortage of volunteers. So this is the curly leaf, and right next to it is the flat leaf. You can kind of see the difference there side by side. And I just basically, I don't really eat it fresh. I just dry it and use it in a lot of soups and sauces and all that kind of stuff. And these are the last 2 remaining broccoli plants. Again, we did eat a lot of broccoli heads off of these. They just, mostly the side shoots. I don't have the greatest luck with getting super beautiful heads of broccoli, but we get a lot of florets, so that's fine. But these have gone to seed, and so these are the last 2 plants, and the chickens are going to be getting these within the next few days. All right, so now we're back over to the original side where we started with the garlic, and going down this way. This is another bed of oregano. It literally started about, right here over that I had planted, and it's already spread itself this far. I put it in this bed specifically because when it blooms, it sends up long stalks, and it just has the most pretty bloom heads on it, and they look gorgeous in my cut flower bouquets. So that's why I planted more over here. I don't really need this much at this point, so I might pare it down a little bit. And you can see, again, just how quickly they will take over this one, which was nowhere near the original starting point. Growing nice and happy. I have 2 beds of strawberries, and I did buy Junebearing and Everbearing, and one of my daughters helped me plant, and I think they got mixed up. So happy surprises. We tend to have berries all summer long. It's just, I don't know, they're not as great as all the ones that come up in June. I find the June are just, they're just delicious. Let me see if I can find a bloom. It might be too early. But one of these I saw the other day. Oh, here we go over here. They're starting to bloom. My little strawberries. Aren't they cute? They remind me a little bit of the southern daisies that you make daisy chains out of and everything. But luckily, these ones form delicious strawberries. Here is a raised bed that's basically empty. Again, it's got some more Wando peas in here on both sides of the trellis. I just have another cattle panel arched over this one. And I don't know if you can see this, but see that mound right there? Yeah, that's from a mole. One has been busy in these beds, so that's always frustrating. The rest of this bed is empty, except for the Wando peas. And the rest of this bed is empty, just waiting for something to be planted. So we will go take a sneak peek at my second growing area, and I will kind of show you what's going on there. All right, on the way down to the growing field, I had to take a quick stop into the greenhouse because I had to uncover my tomatoes. I have frost cloth over them at night to keep them extra warm. I ran out of room, as you can see how many there are here in my germination room, and so I had to bring them down here, and they are on a heat mat. So at night the heat mat goes on, the frost blanket goes over top, and it just keeps them nice and warm. See if you can tell how tall they are. Nice and happy. But I have about another month to go before I can plant these out. We are only just the middle of April, and our last projected frost date here is May 15th, so I don't want anything to happen to these. I'm gonna turn the heat mat off because the sun, as you can see, I don't know if it shows up as good as it does in person, but right up here it's just starting to come up over the tree, and as soon as it hits in here it's going to get nice and toasty. And if the heat mat was on, it would be way too much. Out of my greenhouse, we are just going to walk down and see my shadow because the sun is behind me. But I have some more raised beds over here, and these I have some narcissus and some bridal crown. They're bridal crown narcissus. And then down in between there, that's stock flower. And I have this lovely contractor fencing up because the deer like to go in there and chomp on stuff. But because there's so much chaos with fencing going on, the dog run is just on the other side of there with the fence. So kind of the confusion of their depth perception. They don't have really good depth perception. They haven't gotten in here since we put that up. Here is my load of compost that I'm going to be working on today, actually. And it is going to be going over here. I'm currently working on another video about working on this field, so if you'd like to see that, make sure you're subscribed. I'm not sure if it's going to be out before or after this one. I'm guessing after, because this is probably going to take me a couple more days. Got all the drip tape pulled up, or excuse me, the weed mat pulled up, and you can see the drip tape on here, but I'm just working on getting the last few weeds out, and then I'm going to get it all spread with organic fertilizer and then the compost, and then we'll be ready to plant. And in here is going to be probably a lot of tomatoes, peppers, and a lot of flowers. I'm hoping by towards the end of the season, my daughter's surgery, she should be recovered by then, and I will be able to start selling my stuff again to the public, and maybe even building a little farm stand for down by the end of the road. Let me see if I can pan around here. Up there towards the end of the gate, the other side of the barn, is a lower entrance that we have, and I'm thinking I might do something over there, but we'll see. And then this field that you can see right in front of me, and no, we didn't build this barn. It's kind of the wonkiest thing, and it's in a really wet spot in the property, but it's what we got so far. And we're going to be working on getting my daughter's 2 horses moved back over here for boarding. But you can see I have rows in here, and the corn and some other perennial plants and probably some other veggies. I have to do a little more fencing, get some of the contractor netting up top right here, because that fence isn't tall enough, and they have jumped in there before and just munched away. So that's what we're going to be working on. Okay, so that was a tour of what's happening on week 1. So be sure you're subscribed, stay tuned, and we will keep track on week number 2 in the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time.